Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Castle Rock Season 1, Episode 5. It is called Harvest. So, full spoilers for the episode, as always. So, we jump a little bit ahead after the massacre. I actually went back and listened to something again, because I misheard something, and I got really, well, not confused, but there's a radio broadcast at the start of the news show talking about, it's been 5 days since the massacre. The first time I heard that, I heard 5 years, and I thought, wait, are we what? Are we doing a time jump? What? And then
That would be weird.
and everything seemed normal and fine, and I was, as if it had just been taking place, like a few days later, and I'm like, I'm gonna go back and hear that again, and sure enough, it said 5 days, so that was just me hearing
Yeah.
other words. It's fine. Uh, so, no, so just under a week, but we find out the gun blast next to his head has re-triggered, or at least brought to light for us, tinnitus or something similar to that. That Henry
Presumably
has.
not tinnitus, with the way he makes such a big deal about it.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's, again, go with the creepy supernatural things that are going on.
Not even that. I assume it's just something mental, like
Sure.
it's psychological that he's doing to himself, basically.
Yeah.
From something traumatic. Maybe there was something that when he was kidnapped or missing in those days. Maybe there was a gun went off next to his ear then, or something to that effect, and he's kind of buried it, so it comes up when he's stressed, maybe.
That said, I mean, I feel like a gun going off near your ear would probably be a good trigger for
It
tinnitus
would.
in general.
It would, yeah. But I think here it seems to be very, it comes in again now. When it's when he thinks about that, I mean, sure, it could be just okay. There was a loud noise near him that would set it off, but it seems more than that.
Yeah, so we got that going on, and the kid gets out of prison. The kid's getting out. We get a great little video, little VHS tape, which is like the return to civilization, return to society instructional video that basically says, lie about your past to anyone who asks. You can be whoever you want.
Yeah, be the hero of your own story.
Yeah, because he ends it with saying, like, I'm Dale Lungentham or whatever. Who are you? So he looks at the camera and says, who are you? And I thought, this is cheesy as shit. I love it.
I think the part here was the implication of just tell them you're not the same man you were that you went in. Tell them you've changed. You don't have to mean it. Just tell them.
Yes. I just love it's an old VHS tape, though. It doesn't matter, it's 2018. It's just, there's still a VHS tape. This prison's just not advanced with the times. Not even transferred the old tape to a DVD.
If it still works, right? That said, I am questioning, because I assume people just don't leave Shawshank very often, because a VHS would be worn out by now.
Which is exactly why you would transfer it to a DVD.
No, you would. That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying that's probably how little people leave, that they're not even playing it that often. I think that's what it's supposed to be a sign of.
Yeah, and Warren Porter's getting thrown under the bus for this, or at least been threatened to be thrown under the bus. We hear our superior from the board, grilling her about it, and we're just seeing clean up.
Pretty fairly, to be fair. A few days in, you had this kid, you didn't tell anyone, and then there was a shooting.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I am not saying she is not deserving of this rollicking. If anything, she should probably be fired on the spot, and that should be the end of it. Well, not the end of it, but end of it for her. She can go away, and then someone else can come in and deal with this mess. So the kid gets out, and we really up the creepy factor, I think, with a few scenes in this episode. In particular, so he takes him to the hospital. Henry takes him to the hospital to get checked out. Does he have amnesia? And she's like, yeah, I mean, it could trigger at any time, usually taking him to a familiar place, which obviously in this case isn't an option, because he doesn't know where he comes from, and no one knows where he comes from. And it's like, well, okay, what, you don't have a bed for him? Oh, shit, okay. So Molly steps in, and her empty building that's supposed to be her office when things get going, we'll see if that ever happens, but she's got like an air mattress or whatever, and sets him up there. And I was like, oh, is she going to like hear his thoughts soon? Doesn't happen yet. Happens later on. There's a big moment later where it happens.
But it's coming.
Yeah, you're sort of waiting for it. You're thinking.
Well, no. There was two possibilities. It was coming, or he's a dead zone.
Oh, sure, yeah, that's true. That's possible.
It crossed my mind. Is like, okay, does he give off nothing at all? And that's what's weird about him.
Isn't the Dead Zone also a Stephen King story? Just
It
that
probably is.
title. I'm
It
sure it
sounds
is.
like one of his.
There's definitely a movie and a TV show called The Dead Zone, and I think it's based on a Stephen King book. But
It does sound like one of his things.
it does. So that's fine. And then Jackie comes by later with some coffee and donuts, and she starts wandering around the place. And she goes upstairs to where he is, and all I could think was, look, Jackie and her donut better come out of this unscathed. All right, I'm saying it right now. And she ends up just sort of lying down in the bed, like, oh, there's a bed here. Oh, yeah, I'll have a nap. Why not?
Yeah. I feel like we were robbed of quite a comical moment though.
Well, because he walks in naked and it ends in like a sort of like a creepy, like he's standing there naked watching.
Yeah, but her noticing and reacting. I feel like there's a funny moment to be had there, a nice little scene.
Yeah, no,
and
that's fair.
and then we just come back to them later, and we don't actually get that.
I think it's because I wanted to play the mystery of where, okay, did he do something to her? Like, did something bad happen?
I get that. I think it's just a little underwhelming. I'd have preferred the other scene, I think.
Yeah. What we do get though is her. She references a couple of things. She references Cujo again. I'm pretty sure the story about the gas, like, you know, killing everyone, all the family in their sleep. I'm pretty sure that's a King story. It sounds like
I'm
one.
sure it is. Yeah, I can tell you which one, but I'm positive it is.
It sounds like one. But then she reveals the origin of her name. She mentions that she had an uncle in the 80s, before she was born, who tried to kill his wife and child with an axe at a fancy ski resort. And her real name's actually, was it Diana, I think she said?
Yeah.
But she took her uncle's name just to piss them off because they won't tell her about him. And that's why she's called Jackie Torrance. Oh, I love it.
It's great.
Which
laugh.
No, here's the interesting thing about that, is that it means that Danny Torrance
Is knocking around somewhere.
yes, her cousin with the
Yes.
shining ability, maybe like Molly's, maybe not unlike Molly's, is around somewhere.
Yeah, I think it's just interesting that it sets up that stuff is in play. That supernatural stuff is in play for sure.
And it means they can bring those characters in if they want to now. Like
They can. Aren't we getting a movie with?
we are Doctor Sleep, which was the official sequel to The Shining in the book. That is, and it's curious. Like I don't know. I mean, it's not so much even if I think they can get away with it. Like I don't even know if King would want them to. Then again, King hates the movie, so maybe King hates the idea of the sequel movie. So he'd happily have them do their own like King approved version in the show. I don't know.
Yeah, it depends on is the movie more King approved as well. Like, it could be.
It could be. I don't know. I know this one's fairly King approved, just from
It is. I've seen
rumblings.
him speak about it a few times.
Yeah.
You're pretty happy. That said, he did say don't take all the Easter eggs too seriously. Don't go looking and digging into all of them because they might not mean they could be just there as as Easter eggs.
Just fun little references to things because it's in that world.
Yeah,
That makes sense. It makes sense. But it was fun all the same. It was fun all the same to get the origin of her name. And what and just like, does that mean anything for her story going forward? Is there going to be more to that? I don't know. So,
and Joe, on that note, one of the rare origin of a name things that's actually not atrocious.
because it's really just a little joke. I think that's
It
why
is.
it works.
But I feel like a lot of if they had never said, this is why she's called, if it was just an Easter egg and that was it, that would have been fine. But the fact that they chose to explain it, it works still. Like,
Yeah.
There are other times that someone takes a name and I'm like, it didn't really matter, did it?
There's no one with you. I'm going to call you Solo.
That is a pretty bad example of it. Yeah, I'm not going to argue.
Stupid movie. Not that I've seen it.
No, I'm not going to go that far. Stupid scene. Stupid bit
movie.
of dialogue. Good movie.
So he ends up on top of this building, this old factory, and Molly goes up to try and speak to him, and this is when we get the big scene where she starts to she's trying to talk him down at first, and at first she thinks he speaks because it says something along the lines of, oh, I shouldn't be here, I should be back in the hole, I should be back in the cage, and we don't see him from the front, but she just thinks he said that. And then more things start to happen. She starts to hear more. It's like, no, he didn't, because he's not been speaking much, right? He speaks in like one word here or there if he's really prompted, and that's about it. But she starts to hear all these like horrible things, these screams, these cries. In fact, hell, we've skipped over actually
one of the creepiest scenes. I thought we were coming back to that. Yeah.
The night before, actually, when he was supposed to be sleeping there, because Jackie didn't come in until the next day. He got up and left and just walked up the street to a house with a family in it. And he's watching through the window. It's all very creepy. And he sneaks into the house, and they have like a little birthday party, like the
one of the kids, yeah.
It's like 8 or whatever. They're having a birthday party. The little baby brother's there, and they're all happy. They're singing songs, and he's just standing there watching. And then gradually, their mood starts to change, and they start to get aggressive and angry and shouting. And the parents start swearing at each other. It sounds like things are smashing. They never actually show
they're
us.
threatening to kill each other.
And, yeah, they never show us, but I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if next episode we hear that there's been a family massacre.
Yeah. Now the question is, did he cause that, or was he just drawn to it? Did he somehow know that there was going to be conflict, and he's like, okay, he's drawn to that?
I got the impression he caused it because they were so happy, and then it kind of flipped, almost like a switch. Because of his presence. That's the way I read it. Like, it never even occurred to me that he was just drawn. Like, I feel like if he was drawn to it, I'd expect more of like a darker start to it.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, he's drawn to it more like, the idea that he knew even before they did that it was going to be dark, like it was going to go down that way. Like that, no one else knew. There was no sign, but he somehow knew.
Yeah, I think given everything else that he's done so far and everything he's been involved in at this point, I'm pretty much 99% sure he is causing this stuff. Whether or not he's meaning to cause it or it just happens because of something he can't control is more debatable. The fact that he's saying in his head, "I should still be in the hole," maybe even implies that he doesn't necessarily like that he's causing this stuff.
Yeah, he maybe thinks he deserves to be in the pit.
Yeah. He at least has some awareness of that to some extent. It's a really creepy, effective scene though. Him just standing there like down the hallway,
and
watching
then just
his family.
Kind of walks out. And he's just sitting on the roof while they, or you just hear the carnage inside.
But she talks him down. But Molly, like tries to tell Henry later, is like, "Hey, there's something wrong with that kid. Like seriously, there's something wrong with him." And she's like, I can sense it's like when I hear his thoughts, it's like everyone like in the town screaming in pain. There's like every bad thing that's happened is running through his head somehow. And of course Henry's like, whatever. He's like, "Oh, you don't believe me." And then she's like,
I just said that was one of the lines that made me think maybe he was drawn to it. The idea that he's not causing all of those bad things, but he can sense all of them. He's still feeling them all to some extent. He's like a conduit almost, or an amplifier.
No, I still think he's causing it. And
no, that's fair.
I think my other backup to that would be with Henry. He feels guilt over who he's not been able to save. It's stuff that he feels responsible for specifically. And I feel like that's the same thing here. He feels responsible for the bad stuff that's happening around him. But he's not, obviously he's very skeptical. He's nice enough to her about it, but he doesn't really believe her. And she's like, "Hey, you carry around the guilt of all the people you've not been able to save. You've not eaten today." And she lists a few things, very specific things about what maybe he's feeling this very specific day. And he kind of pauses for a second, and at this point the kid walks in, because the other plot of this episode is that he's installed these sensors to keep an eye on his mother. These door sensors that say "door open," stuff like that. And there's cameras up around, so that he's got like a phone app that he can, like, anytime he can just look in. Which actually leads to one of the other creepy moments, I thought, is when Pangborn he's off because he gets an award. He gets like a plaque on this bridge.
He's getting the bridge named after him, and it's dedicated to him.
And then Ruth jumps off the bridge.
Not a great sign on on the dedication of your bridge. Let's jump off it.
She freaks out with the dog barking at her, and she jumps off the bridge. And Henry jumps in after her, and she ends up being fine, but she's clearly getting worse and worse. She's deteriorating, or mentally, and he's there to rip his plaque off, and he looks on the app. He gets like a little notification, the door's opened, and he looks, and all he sees is the kid. And keep in mind, he's been away from the house. He doesn't know that he's staying there at this point, because Henry, after all this stuff, says, "Hey, you can just stay here tonight," and puts him up in the little apartment above the garage. So he's like, the look of horror in his face as he sees footage of this kid at his house that he's been staying at.
Yeah, it was good. I think it has a slight diminishing returns in the effect of the kid in the camera, because that shot in the prison, episode 1 or 2 maybe, where he stares up at the camera.
Yeah.
And that was such a good moment through that, and this time it's different because it just you're observing the kid, but he doesn't seem aware of it this time.
Yeah, and I think this one works because it's the just the out of nowhere shock for Pangborn that he just this is
Yeah,
at the house where Ruth lives, and he's like, why is he there? Which leads to, of course, the big conversation at the end where he goes and tracks. The kid ends up walking out of the forest. Pangborn, having seen this, goes after him, and we end with a bit of a standoff where he explains that he pulled over the warden 30 years ago, and he was in the trunk. And he's like, the warden told me to trust him, so I did so. And I always questioned, did I let a monster, drive off with a kid in the back? And then I see you, and then he says something very telling. He's like, I'm an old man now, and you've not aged a day, implying that he has looked this same age for the past 30
yeah.
years.
Interesting, isn't it?
That is very interesting.
Because
It makes him very clearly supernatural in some way. He's not.
yeah, and it changes a lot of our past theories. We were talking about, was he kidnapped around the same time as Henry?
Yeah.
Those sorts of ideas. It was Henry like, okay, they took Henry thinking he might be the kid, and then oh no, they let him go because he wasn't, and then this kid was next.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I still think they're related in some way, but now I don't even know how.
yeah, but not in the same way that
Yeah.
we were thinking.
Yeah, and then he mentions Ruth, and the kid says, "I can help her." And then he looks very confused at that, and then says, the final line of the episode is him saying, "You have no idea what's happening here, do you?" And that's kind of what we go out on.
Because Ruth has seemed to be getting worse, but maybe she's picking up on some stuff as well. Because there's a bit where she's shouting out the back door. I mean, it sounds like she's talking about when Henry was missing.
Yes.
Yeah, she's like welcoming them back almost. It's like, oh no, you've been out there for ages. It's cold, that sort of stuff. And and Alan comes up to her and she's like, no, you're just you're having a bad moment. And then she seems very very lucid and aware. It's like, no, something's going to happen tonight.
Mm. Yeah, it almost makes me wonder if she's having like weird flashes of things from either the future or the past, and like
Yeah,
times kind
is
of.
she picking up on some stuff as well?
Yeah. So no, that's curious, and it makes me, because I do think Henry in some way is special. There's something special about him. I just don't know what it is yet. There's a reason why the warden told him to ask for him, and I have to imagine it's got something to do with keeping the kid at bay in some capacity.
Yeah, you'd think because the war, he seemed very devout in what he was doing.
Yeah, he questioned himself at times. Like, he worried he was doing the wrong thing. He worried that he was being a monster, but
But ultimately, he kept doing it,
yeah.
and so he convinced himself at least that this was for the right reasons that he was doing it.
Worth mentioning, we get another flashback with him in the cage. He does touch him. That sounds really weird out of context, but he does. He touches his hand in his face, so contact was made.
Yeah. I mean, you assume there had to have been some contact, even when he grabbed him and put him in the cage to begin with, at least, right?
That depends. If he's wearing enough clothes, not necessarily.
Well, that's fair. Maybe he knew what was going. That this was the case, so he was wearing gloves. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's true.
If you know it's a danger, wear some gloves.
Which I guess at that point, if he's aware it's a danger and he chose to touch him anyway.
Which I think he did, because he had gloves on and he took them off, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that would suggest, because obviously he's the age where he's about to like die. So I wonder if he's already decided to commit suicide at this point. So he's doing this.
I wonder if it's almost a way of making him feel better about he wants to. He's like, okay, I probably should because this is going to go badly.
Or is this moment itself? Is this moment the suicide? Like the actual method of suicide later, maybe that's just what the kid's like energy made him do. But the moment where he chose to touch him is the moment where he said, "Okay, yes, I'm ending myself here."
No, I think so. Yeah. I think that's what I'm saying here. It's even let's assume that the kid doesn't actually have any. It's not real, the touching them thing, right?
Sure.
For the warden, I think this is a way of making it easier for him, where he touches him. And now he feels like, okay, he feels compelled. He has to, he has to die now. He knows it's going to happen, so he might as well go through with it.
Yeah, either that, or he's almost looking for proof. Like, he wants to know for sure if it, like, he touches him because he's doubting him. Because in this scene, he's doubting himself. Does he touch him to see if it's true? And then that leads to the suicide. But he's lucid enough to say to him, like, "Hey, ask for Henry Deaver before he, before he offs himself." Is that like the sequence of events here?
Yeah, it could be.
But it's interesting. Very curious. The mystery around the kid is getting.
Yeah, it's probably the best part of the show right now.
Yeah, it's getting better as we go. And I think it's got a good supporting cast. I think, I mean, Ruth and Pangborn might be my least favourite elements of the main cast.
That's fair.
Oh, not bad by any means, but you know, I really like Molly. I really like Jackie. Obviously, I like Henry and the kid and all that stuff. So
yeah, I think Molly might be my least favorite, even though she's the one that I should be. You know, really, you know, she's the one with the powers, right?
Oh yeah.
I think she's probably my least favorite character, though. I don't know.
I think my problem with Pangborn is that it's Scott Glenn just playing the same character. I've seen him playing like multiple things at this point.
No, it is, and yeah, we saw that.
Yeah.
The problem is he is pretty good at playing that character, and I do like him playing that character. So you know.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen you do this before. Like, it's hard for me
to. No, it is. Yeah, it's true.
Because at least with the other actors that I know, like Linsky and Levi, like this is a different character than what I'm used to seeing you playing. Sure. I mean, sure, Levi normally has a bit of the same attitude, but it's still a very different character. Like, I have no idea what her goal is, what's going on with her. Linsky's got superpowers. last time I saw her, it was in the Netflix comedy last year. I don't want to live in this world anymore. What I call it? What I say that was her name?
Take word for it.
And it was like it was a different type of role.
No, it's fair.
But yeah, but hey, no, it was a solid episode. I think the mystery is going. It was also mentioned there's wildfires happening in the surrounding forest.
Yeah, they've just started. They're much worse than usual by the sounds of it. They can't figure out the cause.
The kid's the cause. That's why I'm telling you right now.
Most likely, yeah. You know, if they'd started after it got out, I think that would have been, you know, way more telling. But the fact that they started, you know, he was still in the prison when they started, because they were right from the start of the episode. They were going.
Yeah.
And they were saying, you know, normal means that, you know, the usual methods aren't putting the fires out.
I think it's spiraling. I think, you know, the massacre started the chain of events, and now the hysteria, the madness, the evil, whatever you want to call it, it's spiraling from there.
No, maybe his range of effect is widening. Before it was, you know, right next to him.
Actually, I was thinking about that as well. In this one, like the cage he was inside like a tank, and I'm wondering if that was intentional. Like if the tank is like that'll cage the power.
Maybe,
if you will. Because it's very specific.
It is.
So I'm thinking that's maybe what the tank was for specifically. It wasn't just because it was a convenient place to hide him. It was because it's actually got a property that was helping with his power.
Yeah, could well be.
And maybe that's why. Because keep in mind, 30 years. Jackie does say that all the interesting stuff that happened that she's upset she missed happened before she was born in the 80s.
That is true.
And she happens. I mean, the actress happens to be about the same age as me, so I mean that makes sense. You know.
Yeah.
So
no, it's a very good point. So you know, let's say he was captured. You know, what was it? 92 that the show opened? Was it with the Henry
90,
stuff?
Yeah, 91, 92.
Yeah. So let's say the kid was captured around that same sort of time.
Yeah.
She's going to be too young to remember any of that stuff.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think, you know, let's say she's turning 30 in the show, right?
Yeah.
2018. You know, she'd be 3 or 4 at that time. Yeah, she won't remember any of that. So you know that timeline wise, so what if that's why it's been quiet since then? Is because he's been in this tank, in this cage.
Explains why Maine's such a shithole in King's World.
But it's been okay. The 90s, 2000s, and most of this decade have been okay, and then. Now shit's kicking off again. Now shit's kicking off. I actually think the exact phrase he used was 27 years, so it may actually line up even better than what I'm saying.
It might, yeah.
But I remembered 3 decades, so which upsets me because it means I'm almost 30 because I'm saying that I line up with all this in terms of age. That's upsetting. Just a couple more years for you, sunshine.
I'll relish those.
You'll relish, and then you'll be turning 30, and I can laugh at you.
You can, but then you'll be turning 35, so it's fine.
Shut up. So I don't mind the 5s. 35's fine. 35's fine. It's when I'm hitting 40. That's when the worry sets in.
You keep telling yourself
that's when the panic sets in.
Let's see how you feel in 5 years.
I'll have made peace with it by then. I'll be too jaded to care.
That is quite possible.
I'll just say I'll just accept I'm a failure in life by then, and I won't worry about it. Whereas now I still feel there's hope. Like I could turn things around, and that's where the crushing feeling comes from more than anything.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Okay. You're setting up for your midlife crisis already, aren't
Yes. Yes. I mean, I've already written you off. I mean, you have to go through that crisis yourself, but I've already written you off. I just want you to know that.
you? That's fair. Yeah.
You're ginger, so you're null and void on arrival.
Yeah,
So, um, was there anything else we didn't talk about plot-wise in the episode? I don't think so. That's nothing huge.
No, we talked about both wardens.
Yep.
We spoke about Molly's there. We did Jackie.
Concerns, yes.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting. I'm excited about that. I'm excited about her feeling the evil, because we always said she'd be important to understanding and maybe even fighting them. So I'm curious about that. So Steam's trying to update. So before it sabotages this recording, I'm going to put an end to this. This has been Castle Rock episode 5, so let us know what you thought of this one in the comments below. If you want to support us, head over to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. You can do that over there. For just $1 a month, you can support the show and the channel and everything we do, and keep it all going. If you can't do that though, just turn your ad block off, watch the ads on YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment, all the usual stuff. All of it helps. But that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?